In the outskirts of Kiev, a lone watcher scans the endless steppe. He spots movement. In the distance, he sees hundreds, maybe thousands of horse riders. He can't really tell. At first, they barely seem real. Blurred silhouettes against the horizon. The watcher strains to see them. They slowly come to a stop, disciplined, silent. Thousands of mounted warriors stretching across the horizon. Little did he know, he was staring at death itself, a force that already shattered many kingdoms, and now it had arrived at the doorstep of the Rus. The Mongols did not arrive in Kiev demanding war. In fact, they came offering peace. Carrying before them was a white horsehair sulde, a banner associated with peace in Mongol tradition. After sweeping across the steppe, the Mongol generals sent envoys to the Rus princes. Their message was simple: remain neutral and there would be no conflict. But the Rus saw something else. To them, these strange eastern horsemen looked dangerous, possibly deceptive. They were aware of a deadly force that destroyed cities across Asia. What if these envoys were spies? The Rus princes made their decision, and with that decision, war became unavoidable. The Mongol envoys were executed, a bloody signal. And in Mongol culture, it was not just an insult, it was unforgivable. Now, the Mongols had returned, but this time, peace wasn't on the table. And leading them was one of the most dangerous commanders the world had ever seen. The Mongol army was under the command of General Subutai, one of Genghis Khan's greatest generals, a strategist who had already helped crush empires across Asia. And he wasn't here to win a simple battle, he was here to dismantle an army. The Rus coalition mobilized. Princes from across the region assembled their armies. Among them was Mstislav the Bold, an experienced warrior prince eager for battle. Confidence was high, the enemy seemed small, outnumbered. Victory felt inevitable. But this was not one united army, it was a coalition. Rival princes, divided ambitions. And on the other side, Subutai needed only one mistake. The first clash came quickly. Arrows darkened the sky, horsemen crashed into one another. Then suddenly, the Mongols retreated. The battle seemed minor, almost disappointing. To the Rus, it looked like weakness. The enemy was fleeing, victory seemed close, so they chased. 3 days into the pursuit, morale remained high. The Mongols always seemed close, just beyond reach. Dust clouds on the horizon, campfires in the distance. The Rus believed the enemy was breaking, but from the Mongol perspective, this was going perfectly. Every mile stretched the Rus further, every hour made them weaker, more divided and more predictable. By day 6, cracks began to show. Disagreements spread between the Rus princes. The army started losing cohesion, and somehow the Mongols always stayed one step ahead. Arrows were shot from nowhere, confusion spread, and before retaliation came, the Mongols vanished again. The Rus always seemed to be a step behind. They reached abandoned Mongol camps. The enemy had just been there, always close, yet somehow always out of reach. The chase intensified. By day 8, exhaustion hit hard. Supply lines stretched, coordination weakened, and divisions inside the coalition deepened. Some forces moved ahead, while others lagged behind. The once unified army began turning into separate pieces. Mongol riders stood in the distance, watching and taunting. The next moment, they were gone, swallowed by the open steppe. For Mongol cavalry, speed was survival, and deception was a weapon. 9 days into the pursuit, the Rus finally reached Kalka River. At last, the enemy seemed cornered. They set up camp and began the crossing. But not everyone crossed together. The coalition had stretched too far. One half of the army pushed ahead, the other remained behind. And the Mongols saw the opportunity instantly. The retreat stopped. The Mongols turned and attacked with full force. Horse archers surged forward. Arrows rained down. Cavalry smashed into isolated Rus forces. The divided army had walked straight into a trap. The Mongols had shaped the battlefield, and now they closed the jaws. Behind them, the remaining Rus forces rushed across the river. They came to help to reinforce their allies. But confusion took over. The battlefield moved too fast. Exhausted, confused, and soaking wet from the crossing, the Rus were cornered. And again, the Mongols destroyed them. The surviving Rus forces pulled back into a defensive camp. Wagons formed barriers. The Mongols surrounded them. For 3 days, exhaustion turned into desperation. Then came an offer. Lay down your weapons, and your lives would be spared. After days of suffering, they abandoned their defenses. As darkness fell, the surviving leaders faced a brutal end. According to historical accounts, captured princes were executed beneath wooden boards, crushed while Mongol commanders feasted above. A punishment meant to send a message. Resistance had consequences, and broken promises meant nothing to the Mongols. When morning arrived, the battlefield was silent. Between 50 and 80,000 bodies scattered across the land. The Rus had marched out expecting victory. Instead, they had been outmaneuvered at every step. And then, just as suddenly as they appeared, the Mongols left, riding east, disappearing into the horizon. For the Rus, the nightmare seemed over. But this wasn't the end. It was only a warning. Years later, the Mongols would return, and next time, they wouldn't leave. Thank you so much for watching. The Battle of Kalka River is one of those moments in history that stays with you. A trap so perfectly built that the men walking into it helped construct it themselves. And for Subutai, this was barely the beginning. 15 years later, he came back. But that's a story for another time. If you like the video, a like or a subscribe would mean the world. Thank you again, and see you next time.